Being a criminal these days, it's shit. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my review of The Fix Issue 1. This is a brand new Image comic by writer Nick Spencer and artist Steve Lieber. These guys did a comic run for Marvel called The Superior Foes of Spider-Man, which I absolutely loved. It's a great comedy book. They're back with this new series at Image called The Fix, and here's my review for The Fix. Alright, just really quickly before we start off, I just want to I won't bury the lead here. I just want to say, pick up this book. It's amazing. It is actually one of the funniest books I've read this week, probably in like months. It is hilarious. So to sum it up, buy this book. Okay, I'm going to get into the recap and review. So you start off, and they're talking about, the main narrator is talking about how crime is different. It's not as it used to be. Back in the day, you just stole CD players from cars. But these days, all you have to be is like a Russian hacker who just steals credit card information and makes like $6 billion. And like even taking stuff today, like you can't, like the monies don't even have banks, and like you can't steal watches anymore because, like, for example, Apple Watch, it's like tailored to people's specific wrists. So we start off, we have these two robber characters. They go into this old folks home. They're like, all right, where's your orderlies? We're going to take all their shit. And they're like, oh, they're on break. And he's like, wow, that's really irresponsible. So they go looking for this man named Abe, and they start searching for his secret stash of cash, right? And they think that he's asleep. But then he gets woken up by when they find the money stash. It's this really great shot where all the money's falling down, and then a dollar, like a Benjamin, hits him in the face, and he wakes up with a shotgun. They're like, oh, fuck. And then, they're running out of there, and the narration is like, listen, I'd rather be doing this than sitting behind a desk. And we find out that these guys' names are Roy and... what's the other guy's name? Roy and... I'll figure it out soon. I remember this, but we find out that they're both partners in crimes, but both of them are actually cops. They're detectives. They got into law enforcement, and we see Roy's backstory, how as a child he really liked the bad guys in old westerns, and he's saying how society works. It's like, oh, you go to high school. You follow the rules, you get a job, or you graduate from that, you go to college, you get a job, you get a house, wife, and kids. And it's very cynical. It's like you do all this hard work, and then just so you can see that neighbors say like, oh, you're such an upstanding citizen. But in reality, it's all about you're being crushed by like debt and student loans, and your neighbor doesn't think you're an upstanding citizen. He thinks you're a fat asshole, and he's probably sleeping with your wife. So Roy's into the becoming insanely rich, the cheapest and most shallow way possible, and it all started when he decided to become a cop, because when he wanted to be a robber, he actually met a robber in real life. He was in a bank robbery that went south. Like this guy came in all like Mr. Charming, like, oh, I'm robbing this place, and then immediately gets shot by a cop, and the cop goes, fuck yeah, and then he's like, oh, wait a second, I need to be a cop because cops get it done right. Cops are they get a like kickback, they get the glory, they get to make all the rules. So that's when he decides to become a cop. So now that Roy and his partner, they have this ability to go and commit crimes and go back to the scene of the crime, and like essentially they play both sides. So like they create the crime, and then they go back and then they investigate it, and then they take all the glory and the money and the kickback. So it's like working both sides really, and it's like the cheapest, I guess the sleaziest way he could possibly make his money, right? But yeah, so it definitely tells you what it's like to be a certain character like himself, and it shows him like taking evidence and like taking it to clubs for like all these like young like young people to just start taking, and like they're snorting the cocaine of the evidence file, and it's pretty funny. And then the comic introduces probably one of the best characters, I think, the best introduction to a character I've ever read. It's this black man, his name's Donovan, and he's sitting at the bar, and he's like, oh, hey, what's up, Roy? And he's like, hey, you ever tasted your own cum before? And then he sits down and he explains like, yeah, man, so I was with this girl. I know I'm not even gonna ruin it. Okay, just go and listen to that. So the point of Donovan is he does these crazy things. Like he does these wild, like borderline insane things, like go to a mall and like try and beat up a mine, put like ice cream all over his head, go to a shoe store and literally have sex with a boot. Like, it's fucking insane. But you think it's when he's talking to Roy, he's like, "Oh, why are you doing all these crazy things?" He's like, "Well, I was on bath salts then, but actually, that was that powerful, terrible drug. But you know, really, why I really do this is because I'm a movie producer, and what I do is I go out and I sell my movies based on the fact that it's inspired by a true story. So essentially, what he does is he goes out, he does crazy shit like that, and then he gets it optioned for a movie, and then once it's greenlit, he gets shit ton of money. So he did that with Roy and all that, and his whole mall story was like, quote, it's Die Hard in a fucking mall, what he said. So at that point, Roy and Mac, that's his partner's name, they're just rolling in the money, but they wanted to double it, so they went to I guess illegal bot fighting, and obviously they lost, but they have to get the money to pay a debt that they had to their boss. His name's Josh, and there's this lady named Shirley, and she's internal investigations. It's this great scene where she's like, so you guys want to know anything about a certain, I guess, robbery that happened? And they obviously, they're in the same car, and she shows them the picture and it's like, listen, you guys fucked up, I know it. And she's actually on the take for Josh. So once we meet the boss, he's like this very like kind, almost like a Phil Coulson type character, like very kind. Like as soon as he walks in, he's like, oh, can I get you a coconut water? And he's holding the baby, and he's like, you know what, guys, would you like some treats? Are you gluten free? He's like, oh, of course you don't have any gluten allergies. There's no gluten in my food. I'm not a monster like that. And he's like, well, I'm just wondering where my money is, and are we gonna have to start cutting out some tates? And it's this great panel where it's like meet Josh, and it's like him like holding his baby like shh, and then in the second panel is him like jabbing a knife into a dude's eye, and like another shot is like, so is this farm entirely pesticide free? And then the next shot is like him like stabbing a dude in the head, and like, oh, he's at an anti-vaxxer rally, and then the other shot, the other panel is of him like burning people alive. So he's very much like he seems like a domesticated like husband, but he's a murderer. Oh my god, he's a crazy person. And he's like, listen, if you don't give me my money, obviously I'm gonna cut off your balls. And like, oh, they're like, please don't cut off our balls and all that. So he's like, you got to do one thing, you got to smuggle something for me. And it's like, oh, we got to smuggle something over customs, and we got to deal with Pretzels the dog. And that's where the comic ends. Holy shit, this issue was hilarious. This is a brand new, obviously, like I said, a brand new series at Image, and it's fucking hilarious. I cannot say any more about this issue. It's excellent. I can't wait to pick up the fucking next issue. It's great. It's awesome. Highly recommend. I think it's the pick of the week, to be honest. It's incredible. Honestly, like a 10 out of 10. It's so good. You'll not be disappointed by The Fix issue number 1. So that's it for my review. Thank you so much for watching.